And we are live, apparently. Monday Night Raw. Are they really doing McIntyre versus Orton again? Hello and welcome to the LOP Radio Raw review. My name is Matt Mayer, aka Imp, and we are live here on YouTube and also in podcast form. Links in the description, or head over to wrestlingheadlines.net. And apologies for being a few minutes late, I've been having absolutely massive sound issues, and for some reason my microphone is just really, really quiet. I've got absolutely no idea why. I know for the audio version, I'll be able to bump it up in post. But for the YouTube version, I don't know what's doing it. It could be my microphone going. It is quite a bit old, but I'm toying with it again. But yes, I can see it. It's only going about half the volume it was this time last week, so I don't know what's caused that. So I'll have to have a look, because that's great. But anyway, at least it's getting something. That's better than I've had in the past when I've been completely silent. Anyway, hello and welcome to the show. But yes, so yes, I was thinking, should I get I was going to bump the volume range like up to 200, see how that goes. That might be like a horrible idea, and it might be making me deaf, but we'll wait and see. And I'm only coming out of one ear as well. No, I'm not. Anyway, I've got myself on audio, so I'll be able to hear when I bump that up to 200, which might be an awful, awful mistake. But we'll be talking about Monday Night Raw. I'm waiting for my audio to kick in. Let's see. Does it do it? Nope, it's done absolutely nothing. I'm still quiet. Cool! I'm doing the show quiet then. That's irritating. I do not know why that's doing it. Anyway. Oh, my microphone's gone way down as well. Oh, okay. I'm learning stuff live on air. I changed my threshold, and that meant that I bumped my audio way down. So let's see. I'm waiting for it to kick in again, just to see, because I sound really quiet to me. Let's see. Well, that sounds louder. I think I figured it out. I think I've kicked myself up to louder. Cool. I cut all of this out of the audio version. But yes. So I've upped the volume range, so I'm going to see if that's going to do something. Max that out. See how bad it is. Is it just me? Is it fine? It just sounds so bad to me. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Let's not raffle on too much. Actually, let's have a sip of tea from the New Day mug. They are on Raw after all. Right, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre. Let's get on with the topic. So, I hit this wall again. It was during the Hell in a Cell build. Well, let's just get that headphone off my face. With the Hell in a Cell build, it was kind of getting to me that I was done with this feud, and it just wasn't ending. And they were building to Hell in a Cell, and I thought, we can end it at Hell in a Cell. That's fine. I'll be cool with that. I say I'd be cool with that. At the time, I was just saying I was done with it at the ambulance match. He absolutely nailed it at the ambulance match, but here, nah, not so much. It was Hell in a Cell felt like one match too far, and I was very fit just to end and then move on to the next thing. But it didn't. It didn't do that. So they made Randy Orton champion, and it means that this feud that I was ready to end a month ago is going to continue for at least another month. But because it's Survivor Series, that means it's got to go on for another month past that as well. So pretty much guaranteed to be getting Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre for another 2 months. So my immediate question, 1, are they really doing it again? Because this would be 5 matches on pay-per-view since August/September with the SummerSlam Payback crossover. It's like, that's insane amount. And saying the WWE world where that means that every single week you will be interacting with that person in some manner. But that's a long time to be doing that. It's like a top feud all the time. So immediate question, how on earth did they make that interesting? And the answer seems to be inject the Fiend, inject the Miz. And of course he changed balance as well, where he had Drew McIntyre on top for the entire feud. Suddenly it's Randy Orton on top. And I really enjoyed the promo package at the start. Or I wouldn't say enjoyed, I thought he did a really good job of just highlighting that phrase of what happens when the predator becomes the prey. It's like, yes, so you got Drew McIntyre dropping the title to Orton. I did not mean to say Drew McIntyre's name. He got Randy Orton. And of course he's got Drew McIntyre trying to come back after his title after what happened at Hell in a Cell. Then you've also got the Fiend targeting Randy Orton, seemingly out of what's happened in the past, trying to get revenge. And then you've got The Miz, who's Money in the Bank and wants to become champion for all the money and glory and whatever that brings as well. So you've got multiple people coming at him from different angles, and I always like it where on a wrestling show they start to establish that the champion has got multiple targets on his back, and you really start to feel it. Like the attacks are coming from all angles. There's so many top contenders that you feel like the champion really has to watch himself. And it's nice to see that as a heel champion for once as well. It's quite often be the babyface under that, and they're fighting off foes. But no, here it's Randy Orton, and he's yes, I like the different levels to it as well. This opening segment I thought was both feuds continuing. Are you really running this again? But then they mixed it up a bit. So it's a weird feeling of, yeah, I loved it, and I'm getting tired of it. It's a weird one. It brings up a lot of the negatives I have towards WWE, but also the pros for the current era. Because this is one of those things where this is a WWE kind of, the way they write, the kind of trope, and quite often when I'm talking about the way they write, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm talking about it in a negative way. It just means that's the way they do it. Like you've got the booking it week to week type of thing. That's just the way they write. The comic book writing, where you do your one storyline and you kind of in that one ship until it finishes, and you don't interact with many people that's on that ship. Something that's gotten better in this current era, but that's still mostly a thing. And when I say that, that's just how they write. So I don't go in there expecting much more. When they dither, when they change from that norm, that's when I kind of praise them a bit. It's like, oh, I don't expect you to go out of that because that's how you write. But when you do and you mix it up, yeah, it's great. Like when I was Retribution versus Hurt Business, yes, it was crap stable versus legitimately strong stable, but it was heel versus heel. And I liked that. They did that, and they didn't play it up as, oh, isn't it weird to see baddie versus baddie? They didn't play it up like that. They just played it up as these are two stables with beef. Yeah, one of them was horribly booked, but at least there's some bright spot in there. For this, I'm done with Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre. I was done a month ago. And to know that because of Survivor Series, we've got it for another 2 months, for me, that's crazy, that's mental. Survivor Series won't be the break from it, because we'll see it every single week on Raw. I've already been tired of it, and it's kind of crazy to mean that this feud will go over a 5th pay-per-view, then into a 6th, just because they can't face each other at Survivor Series. Oh, it's one where the pay-per-view kind of hinders what they're doing here. That said, but the immediate question that I put in the description is The Fiend is injecting Bray Wyatt enough to make this storyline interesting? Yes and no. The Fiend stuff is all interesting. I love the callbacks. But mainly the big part is it's Randy Orton versus somebody who isn't Drew McIntyre. And that's the big thing. When Keith Lee got injected, the same thing. It's just that I know the end game. The end game is Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre again. So it's difficult to get hyped for it when it's seeing that same match again. And it's not bad. The two have done great work together. It's just that it's, again, you're still not moving on after all this time. And like this is... Because WWE don't really do long-term booking. They'll do after-the-fact booking and referring to things that have happened in the past. But they don't actively do long-term booking. Like, it's stuff under the surface. Like, stuff that Twitter will pick up on and will go crazy over. But it's not... No, it's not actually there. They're not acknowledging it as taking place over a long period of time. But with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, that is lots of short-term booking on top of each other, making it longer. It's not long-term booking. Long-term for me would be they knew the end point. And at the start point, you know where it's going to end, roughly. And in between, you can drop hints and things and you can build to that end point because you know where it's going to be. And the case in point would be the ambulance match was 100% just the perfect type of thing you would do if you were doing that. You've built it up, and everything that happened over the course of the journey kind of then rears its head at the end of it, and you get a nice feeling climax. Phrasing, not title of your sex tape, but it was. But to do that in the middle of the feud, It's short-term bookings on top of each other because they don't know where it's going to end. That's the making it up as it goes along kind of thing. When you are long-term booking, you do it over a longer period of time. They're booking it short-term is what I mean. You end up with long-term feuds. That's not long-term booking. That's two completely long-term writing, I'll say, to get it out of the wrestling nerd bubble. You're not writing for like the start of a season and the end of a season. You're going episode by episode and vaguely knowing where you want it to go, but you could change your mind at any point. And you do change your mind live before the episode goes out. But that's what this feels like to me. It's like they're kind of keeping it rolling, and like for me, the way to make it interesting is to end it. Essentially, to get me interested in Randy Orton is you end his feud with Drew McIntyre, you move him on to the Fiend. You don't have him tackle the Fiend to then go back to Drew McIntyre. And I've kind of got hope that is what they'll do. I feel like yes, he's focused on Drew McIntyre for now, but it's the Fiend in the background rather than Drew McIntyre's the main point and the Fiend is the distraction. As in, the Fiend is a longer thing being built up for Randy Orton to then turn his attention to, not a sidetrack from McIntyre. That's my hope, at least. I hope, maybe, possibly. But on this show itself, Randy came out, and for me, first half of it was a generic Randy Orton stuff. I'm not really paying attention for the first 3-4 minutes of the show because it's something I've seen over and over, and I just tune out now. Obviously, different parts of your fandoms, you will have different reactions to that, but I've seen it for so long. It does nothing for me anymore. But there was a decent kind of main line he was playing off of in it, that he's no longer the legend killer, he's now simply a legend. I loved that line. That was such a good line. And it was, in terms of moving him on to the next part of his career and the mentality he's got as a champion now. Yeah, fantastic line. Just gets so much across. And it's not like the exposition that WWE normally do. It kind of counts as exposition, but it's not on the same level. It's a bit more to it. And I really appreciate that. It's not somebody coming out there saying their feelings of, I do not like this, I am very, very good. To be fair, the first half of the promo is I am very, very good. Like generic crap for me. Insert here to heel champion. But the legend killer legend line, uniquely Orton, great. It's had so much character to him. As legends do, he laid out a challenge for anyone to step up to him. But it's Alexa Bliss's music that hit. And she just stood in the ring, smiling at him and put her hands under her chin. I'll do what she did. One with play written on it and the other with pain. She lowered pain and left. No, she lowered play, sorry, and left pain there. That's confusing everybody. And she just says, he could be here. And the lights go all spooky spook. But it's Drew McIntyre when the lights come up with a Claymore, with Miz and Morrison then running out to cash in Money in the Bank. Drew put a stop to that. But the threat is there. Just emphasising the targets on Orton's back after the opening promo package emphasised the targets on Orton's back. So reinforcing. Yes, it's essentially repeating the same plot point after you just told us the plot point, but it's WWE. I count this as a solid reinforcement. Like, for WWE, this is, again, I measure them on their bar. I'm not going to measure them on a different bar, which is like a 10 out of 10 writing every week. No, it's crazy. But yeah, decent enough. And I love the idea of Drew McIntyre being like, no, I'm the one that wants to beat Randy Orton. I don't want to beat The Miz for the championship. I need to beat Randy Orton. And I really like that. It doesn't make everything that's happened before it, like these months of investment, you don't then wipe it away. Cough, cough, last year. You don't just wipe it away. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, they have an animosity between each other. So, of course, Drew's not going to want to just wipe that away. After the break, Caruso caught up with Miz and Morrison. Angry Miz was angry at Drew for cutting off his chance to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. They challenged the Big Scots to a 2-on-1 handicap match as Morrison does his, oh, hey, Scotland. Amazing impression. And as you can tell by the word amazing. Then, I guess the next linked segment would be the Firefly Funhouse, which came much later in the show. And you got Letters for us to Learn. Yay. Is it PIG? Says the pig. No, it's RKO. And I loved the Firefly Funhouse for me. Since it's come back to Raw, has been solid. they've not been, obviously, we're on, week 3? So there's not really been much of an opportunity, and they've had such a direct story with Randy Orton that it's been solid every week, and it's perfect for just playing in the background. Because again, he's got Roman Reigns first, he's got Drew McIntyre. Just continue to build at this rate. And I really, really enjoy what they're doing. And as soon as they say RKO, it cut to Abby the Witch. It's like, well, after what he did to us, Randy Orton can go F himself. And we're like, gasping. You've seen the images of Alexa Bliss gasping, like, that's not very nice. Money in the swear jar, Abby. No, well, you can go F yourself too. It's just, yes. Mixing the kind of childish presentation with the children's show, and then just Abby going, well, you can go F yourself. It got a laugh out of me. I enjoyed it. Bray told us the story of once upon a time, Randy was a very bad man, but that was a long time ago. And with those ashes, I was able to build a new fun world with, and an immediate cut to Bray's flashbacks of Randy burning down his cabin. And he suddenly goes frank with everybody. Like, I'm afraid it can't be that simple. He doesn't forget. Yeah, again, amazing. It was, so far, they've had a little hint of something the week prior. Like, you see it in the background, you see, like, last week where it was Bray Wyatt staying straight into the camera and behind him was the picture of the cabin burning. This week, a lot more in your face. And personally, like, that is more depth than we've had before with WWE, and I like it. I'm fine with it. It's the idea of you place it in our mind last week and go, oh, isn't that cool? And then the following week you do it right in our faces. So yeah, I'm fine with that. Like the week before you got people talking, and then you kind of affirm the people's talking, and that gets people to kind of pay attention again because, oh, we could be right again. What other things are we picking up on? And you don't even have to go that deep. You don't have to go David Lynch. You don't have to do it. Just this is enough, really. And yeah, just reinforcing people's need to just find what he's the things he's hiding in there. Where again, they're pretty blatant. They're not really hidden, but getting people talking, it's a great technique. Oh, and also the thing that ended the segment, the other thing that was screen capped all over my Twitter feed in the morning, Alexa Bliss had been practicing a trick, and so Bray places his heel hand over her forehead, and with flashes of the Fiend appearing on screen, she looks up with the red tinted eyes and droops a spooky red texture out her mouth. Cool. Straight to camera, Bray goes, oh, S word, it's bloody YouTube, I can't swear, as the Funhouse theme plays. And it was a skit with a punchline. Him just turning to camera and just swearing at that after the whole build-up of the swear jar. And in the tease for it, there was the rambling rabbit behind the swear jar. It says, yeah, just nice little things, and it had a punchline, it had an end to the skit. It's not Saturday Night Live after all, because the skit has an ending. Yeah. A great edition of Firefly Funhouse. It made me laugh. It did spooky spook with the Alexa Bliss stuff at the end. And again, I don't know what it's meant to be. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with not knowing. Weird thing happened. And the Fiend, it mostly kind of gets explained. As far as I remember, there's not been anything which was just completely random and had no meaning to it. Like, over time, you found out what it meant. Like, they've addressed it. I'm fine with not knowing. I don't need to know immediately. So yeah, and it's a style of storytelling WWE don't really do, and that's why it stands out. To actually call back on things in this manner, it's not something they do all the time. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Whatever that goopy texture out of her head was, which was strange and weird. So I like how the Fiend character goes kind of a bit beyond the PG line they normally do, and they go into, this is strange and could probably freak a kid out, but that's the world that I grew up in with Doctor Who. Yes, BBC got in a lot of trouble for that show because they constantly were dancing on the line and scared kids quite often. Yeah. As far as I know, the Fiend doesn't really do that, but this is a perfect spooky spook thing to do it. Scaring kids, Bray. Yeah, making kids cry, bro. God, I'm too tired to say it. Anyway, we got some nice little builds. I was going to talk about McIntyre and Sheamus' interaction, but I'll get to that. Actually, no, that would be my last thing. I don't want to cover that last. Yes, I want to talk about Retribution last. Just looking at my order. But Drew McIntyre, later into the show, was backstage. and it was in the interview ring earlier. Didn't really say anything of note as far as I can remember. Just standard. I'm gonna make Randy Orton pay, or stuff like that. But a nice little interaction was with him and Sheamus. Sheamus offered him a place in the Raw Survivor Series team. A nice touch. Like, even though Shamu is heel, he and Drew have history and are genuine friends. Like, WWE's made up of goodie versus baddie stories, and I appreciate them mixing it up. Like, Stephanie McMahon got ripped apart for that "there are no heels or faces" line, but it wasn't because... For me, it was because it was so clearly not true when she said it. Not because it was a stupid idea. Because it's not. Like, I'm all for drifting into that world a tad, where you have got characters rather than blatant good guys and bad guys. That doesn't mean I don't want any, but in WWE, most of the time, it's all of them. It's everything. So to be in a world currently where the characters are taking over a bit, presumably because they don't have to worry about live crowd reaction because they just press it with a button. So it's a studio audience where they control the reaction. It's not the same. It's not an organic, what is this kind of uncontrolled stuff. It's controlled. Controlled like to the touch of a button. So yeah, I'm happy to be in a WWE world where baddies don't team up because we are also baddies. So again, Hurt Business, Retribution, perfect little example. Sheamus, Drew McIntyre. Yes, Sheamus has been a bit more heel recently, but they're friends. They've got a history. They don't just drop that because of unconnected things that have happened. So yeah. Anyway, that led us to the main event, which was the 2-on-1 handicap match, Drew McIntyre versus Miz and Morrison. Very similar to last week's singles match against The Miz. Just this time, Morrison was also a legal competitor. Like, in fact, I could copy and paste my notes from last week, and you wouldn't be able to tell. Like, the Scot out the gates was strong, chopping his opponents down, but the numbers game eventually catches up to him, and Miz chops his leg, gives him an obstacle to climb. That is word for word what happened last week. Difference is, Miz could tag to Morrison, and Morrison could also do damage himself. But he didn't target the leg, he just wore him down. Miz would now and then target the leg. McIntyre dominated the match. Aside from when Miz and Morrison were able to link those numbers together, one-on-one... My mouth is doing really weird movements. I'm all over the place. One-on-one, the recent champion found his way back in, but be it like a quick chop or launching Joe overhead for the off the top turnbuckle. But the numbers game did lead to a close fall for the Miz. McIntyre was never going to fall to these two, but they had their moments. Hit the skull-crushing finale, tried to build it up. As in, it gave like excitement a bit to this match. It wasn't as blatant a formula, but again, a perfectly good. Like, if you're starring, I don't really do stars, but I guess 3 out of 5 stars to put it in that range, but it's a good 3 out of 5 stars. Morrison tried to save his friend by dragging him to the outside, but Drew flew over the top to the outside with a massive tope. Impressive stuff. Clearing them both out and rolling Miz back in for a Claymore for the win. Ending the show, though, on the note we've seen for months, Randy Orton slithering in for an RKO out of nowhere, this time with the championship in hand, where we've been used to him looking down at Drew McIntyre. But the final note is actually the Fiend, as the Fiend was flickering in, going off air with a final, "Let me in." And that's how we ended the show. Like, just the idea of Orton trying to act as if things are normal, going after Drew McIntyre as he would regardless of if the Fiend was there. But things aren't normal. The Fiend is there. The Fiend is there lurking in the background. Like, not front and centre, but continuing to push Orton to let him in. And Orton's not doing it. He's trying to focus on McIntyre. But eventually he's going to get to him. The Fiend is there. He can't ignore him forever. But I like that. If you're going to do... For me, this is a really good way to prolong a feud. Specifically with Randy Orton, the Fiend. I'm done with Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre. But they're using it to stretch out a different feud. And the one after, I feel like the Fiend, Randy Orton's going to really benefit from this. Just building all these layers, because they're not going to clash for a little while. That means when they do eventually clash, there'll be a lot to it. Because you spent time building. Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, I'll never want to see again, because you've... in the meantime, for building for that, you've given me a feud that I've seen so many times, I'm just mentally gone. I just don't pay attention anymore. But that means Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton will have loads of time to build to it. Pros and cons. There are pros to this. Anyway, I take a quick sip again. My face was making so many weird movements whilst I was reading that. So I'm going to take my sip from my New Day mug, and then I'll blast through the remainder of the show in order as quickly as I can so I can get to bed and rest, as I clearly need it. Also, I'm ready to have a bit of a when I go to edit the show later and I realise how quiet the sound was. Hopefully, yeah. I don't know why it's so quiet. Everything seemed fine. I streamed on Twitch yesterday. Anyway, Elias versus Jeff Hardy, guitar on a pole. It's been a while since we've seen on a pole, and it kind of gets satirised and the piss taken out of it because of like a past era. But now, especially like Vince Russo in WCW type of booking stuff. But I didn't start watching until 2005, so that story's of a mysterious time from the past for me, when I wasn't watching WWE or WCW at that point. So I was never in that era where on a pole was something to take the mick out of. I was in the era after that, when there were many other reasons. Many other reasons. But there's a guitar on a pole. You know what that means. Hardy and Elias quickly are racking up these matches together. But at least WWE are throwing gimmicks at it. Like, honestly, I much prefer this to one-on-ones over and over, just building it up and you've got DQs and whatnot. Like, hey, if you must book the same two again and again, at least give them malarkey like this. I'm all for malarkey like this. A great shot leading to the break as Elias launched his performance stool at a climbing Jeff. I appreciated that. But Hardy was the one to grab the weapon and jump off Brett's rope with a smash to Elias's back. It's not a feud I'm super into. The reports that Elias was going to be pushed as a potential main eventer of Monday Night Raw. This feels solidly mid-card. He can be pushed as a feeling, again, it feels solid mid-card. If their aim is to kind of get him over as a main event feeling star, that's not what they're doing. Hardy beat him fairly soundly. Again, Elias is fantastic on the mic. It's just when he starts to wrestle, there's just something missing. Where he doesn't feel, especially with the main event kind of style at the moment, it's just not quite there. Like, I wouldn't be invested if they did it. Like, that's the issue with Baron Corbin. Yeah, he's not awful. But put him in that main event spot where you have to kind of be at a much higher level. To be honest, the booking did him no favours. So it's difficult really to assess it. Anyway, let's move on to the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke versus Nia Jax and Shayna Basler. Two teams on Raw where they split somebody from their partner just to put them with another partner. Okay, sure, that means they've not gone anywhere. Mandy Rose does feel different because she's with Dana Brooke in this mega babyface team. But it's an odd one, especially with Peyton Royce. That's the weirdest one. Somebody she's got genuine chemistry with. Like Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Yeah, they're growing chemistry and their teamwork, but Rose was already in a team with somebody she already had that with. So it's a really strange decision. Anyway, Mandy and Dana spent the match, especially the first half, trying out just a heap of ways to chop down Nia. Once again, showing their quickly growing teamwork. For the first half of the match, the champs really not on top. The chemistry Nia and Shayna have always lacked, becoming an increasing factor against teams that actually have it. Luckily, this is the peak. So, yeah, you're safe. Eventually, they're going to drop them to Rose and Brooke because there's no other route, I guess. Lana was out for the match, tried to distract Basler to lose them the titles, but the last didn't get down off the apron after the distraction, and the ref was busy yapping at her as Brooke had Basler rolled up. So good stuff there. Giving Shayna enough time to easily kick out and roll back into the Kawfuda clutch. Oh, Lana, you. At least there was no announced death spot, so you're safe. That didn't last long. For later on in the show, we got Nia Jax versus Lana. Nia Jax had an interview with Sarah Schreiber where she was pretty angry. I'm just going to find that interview. Sarah Schreiber walked into Nia, and the champion said she ain't happy about Lana trying to cost them the titles and challenges the woman to a match. And that led to said match where, I bloody find it in my notes. Yeah, Lana got the crap beaten out of her. I want to say before we went into the match, there was a promo from Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans. And as that played, I assume my Twitter just went into full, why have you done these? It splits to put them back into different teams. It's so strange. But I was kind of fine with it in terms of like the promo was like a little distraction because immediately when we come back, Shayna is ripping all the stuff off the top of the announce table, clearing it already before Lana's even made her entrance. No nonsense Nia bullied Lana down from the bell, calling her pathetic as she splashed her in the corner. Lana fending for her life. She swung kicks. She swung them in hope before getting clobbered and toyed by the bigger, stronger and all-round more apt competitor. Jax wasn't out there to beat Lana. She was out to end her. As she said in the interview, she's going to end her career. When the last one quit, Nia Samoan dropped her down for a pin. And come on, gang, you know what comes next? Through the announce table for the 7th week in a row. That wasn't planned. I didn't write that in my notes to do that weird punch. Nia shouting that she didn't belong in the ring with them. As that. And I 100% know people would have read that as, you sure there's not heat for the stuff? But I thought it was just well done. It didn't feel... For me, it more came across as that both of them did a very good job of convincing me that Nia Jax really didn't believe Lana should be on the Survivor Series team. She really hasn't deserved it. She's not good enough, and this was Nia Jax showing up, not a punishment for Lana. As again, I've not even looked in those corners of the internet. I can immediately go, that's going to be there. It's because of the way the segment played out. I just thought both of them did a solid job with it. So kudos to you. Kudos to you both. Speaking of kudos, have I got any backstage segments to do? No, I haven't. That means I'm on to the 24/7 Championship. R-Truth versus Bobby Lashley. First off, R-Truth thought he was out there to face a character from 1998's Waterboy. WWE with those timely 22-year-old references. Good God. And you wonder why younger audiences struggling to, attach themselves to WWE. Oh, take a guess. A bit more timely references might help. Truth tried some tricks to catch out Bobby to get in some kicks afterwards, but Mr. Lashley's quickly rebound with a mighty spear and full Nelson, or is it called the Hurt Lock, for the submission win in under a minute. Easy work made of the 24/7 champion, and somebody was waiting in the wings to capitalise. Drew Gulak ran on down, but he also met a Nelson fate. But a final revenge for Truth, I guess, his cheekiness. Bobby Lashley draped Gulak's body over the fallen champion, and we had ourselves a new 24/7 champion. And R-Truth didn't win it back. So that's new. He always wins it back, but he didn't this time. 24/7. It's hard for me to give opinions on the 24/7 Championship because I just don't care. It's not my style of comedy, which pretty much ends the title. Again, I'm a man who loves comedy. Outside of wrestling, I've said it before. Comedy's my world, and that sounded like I love it. No, I just meant as in project-wise. But the 24/7 Championship is not my style of comedy, which means that means it's nothing to me, and I might as well just wind it. It means nothing to me. That title lives and dies on whether you find it funny or not. And because comedy is extremely subjective, it just doesn't really do it for me. I'm fine with silly. Toru Yano, one of my favourite wrestlers in New Japan. But super slapstick? I'm just gone. Anyway, AJ Styles with Big Omokahin, who is big. Before the match, AJ once again put himself forward as Raw team captain. This week on Raw did stuff to establish that out of words. So last week was on terms of the show itself, there was a lot of issues of saying instead of showing. This week, they still said it before showing it, but they did actually show it. And AJ Styles, the team captain, is a great example of that. He introduced the team so far, Keith Lee and Sheamus, and he was calling them up for potential warm-up or whatever. But neither of them agreed to take orders from AJ. Sorry, it's Captain AJ. As they bicker, Braun Strowman strides out and he declared himself as a member of the team. Keith Lee obviously has issues with that. He didn't qualify. They both had to go for qualifications. Why doesn't Strowman? Strowman runs down his Survivor Series and career qualifications. Shammer and Keith still ain't having it, and they pretty much bicker over who gets to beat the big choo-choo train up in an actual qualifying match. Oh, and Adam Pearce was also there. Yay! Authority figures will never die. At least he's an authority figure that isn't doing heel or face, even though they play the noise of the boos, so I guess he's supposed to be heel? If he wasn't, then he wouldn't play reaction like that. Just in terms of presentation, what are you actually trying to get across? That's the reaction he's given. But, yeah, it's fine. Like, he came out and said, I can't find any opponents for you. Keith Lee's to me like, well, that's a lie. I'll fight him. And Shane was like, no, I'll fight him. No, I'll fight him. AJ Styles with the genius idea of a triple threat, and if Braun Strowman wins, then he qualifies to Team Raw. AJ in commentary, and a nice little character bonus off. He wanted Braun Strowman on the team, but totally was like, well, I'm not, in terms of keeping the team together, I'm going to have to make him qualify, but I want him on the team. I like that. It wasn't I'm cheering for him because he's the baddie kind of thing, like I'm the heel on commentary, therefore I cheer the heel. Like, no. It's because he wanted the guy on his team. Yes, just nice and simple. I liked that. AJ was on commentary, and our audio friends were asking if having the three of these men beat the crap out of each other, was that wise an idea? The answer was pretty much, ha ha ha, don't look at my tall friend. Anyway, I enjoyed this meeting of steak, this meat clash, muscle and beef colliding. I really enjoyed this. Quickly into ringside chaos as the big lad wrestled all over the shop. Don't know what that hand movement was. Oh, it's so crazy. Sheamus and Keith Lee showing nice, short little bonding moments in The Enemy of Braun is My Friend. But they didn't last long. A producer in our ear, okay, here he comes, right before Strowman charges the two lads through the front row barricade. There's a pattern of Lee and Sheamus working together to take the big man down before fighting each other and therefore letting the big man back in for the pattern to repeat itself. A hefty Tower of Doom spot with AJ jumping out of his seat questioning how the ring's still intact. With you, AJ, but that sold how crazy that was. It was the fact that they're all massive dudes, and Keith Lee, Strowman in the electric chair, and because the biggest of the men was in the middle of it. That's what made it even more impressive for me. It was Sheamus doing the one flipping over, Strowman going to do the suplex, and Keith Lee doing the powerbomb bit. But it's falling backwards with an electric chair. But yeah, simply just putting Strowman in the middle, putting your biggest lad in the middle, it gave such a different dynamic to it. It was like, oh crap, oh. And I really, yeah, that was a great little spot. Now, speaking of intact, Keith and Braun's rivalry rolls on as the former had Strowman set for a glory bomb before Sheamus launched in with a bro kick to steal the win, but it ended up losing the match for them both as Braun powered the Irishman up and down with a power slam, and he qualifies for Team Raw. Team Captain AJ sliding in to try to calm everything down, like working his magic to get them all on the same side. It didn't work. Sheamus hugging Strowman, but it's a ruse for a bro kick, followed by Keith Lee pouncing him out, followed by AJ drop kicking him out, and AJ's just in the ring throwing a Mardy. It's like, why won't you get along? Why can't we be friends? So yes. Yeah, I like that. Like, he's trying to be team captain, and just when you think it's working, no, they're just too volatile. But are they telling the story of a team that will get along, or that because they are volatile, that's it? Maybe AJ Styles gets eliminated and they're forced to get along without their captain. I don't know. But yeah, massive fan of this match. I thought it was great. Big lad action in the middle of the show, just powering through everything at ringside. Poor Brawley, pure chaos. Loved it. Great, yeah. Again, I still give it like a 3 stars type of thing, but it's a really good thing, and this is why I don't do stars, because that makes it probably gets it across as, oh, so it was fine. It's like, no, I really enjoyed it. It's just that if I'm rating it, my 5-star scale would have to include so many incredible stuff that it would have to be 3 stars, but I don't do stars specifically because of that. That's why I do my words. My point of view on that match, it was really, really great. Big lad brawl. So, if you like your big lad brawls, you will love this match. Anyway, Angel Garza is a 2-camera promo. He has a message for that special someone now flirting with the entire WWE universe. That's his next victim. I'm all for it. Yes, great stuff. To the interview ring, Caruso with Drew McIntyre, and he was saying that of course he's aware that the others might get in his way as he tries to go for the WWE champion Randy Orton. But yeah, he reckons Randy will be fine, because Randy's got a 6'5" attractive guardian angel called Drew McIntyre. I like in terms of the fact that he is a good guy, I like the fact that he constantly refers to himself as sexy. There's something about that which is just, it's just a little character quirk, which because it's been gotten in terms of stuff that's been praised. It's got how his strong booking, how he's booked not to come across as an idiot, especially in the matches themselves, and the way that he'll attack the heels and whatnot. He came across as a really strong champion. Really strong and a smart champion as well. But the little thing gets overlooked. He is constantly referred to himself as sexy. Now I feel like in the marketing world of WWE, that's something that's really needs to be noted on, that he's been pushing his brand like that. So I just wanted to acknowledge. Drew McIntyre, I've noticed you've been calling yourself sexy. I guess keep it up, it seems to be working. This led us into, I think it was Nia Jax and Lana. And it was Firefly Funhouse, then Nia Jax and Lana. Then the Hurt Business with their VIP lounge. And this is another example of Survivor Series clashing with trying to continue to book a story. Yeah, the Hurt Business were all out there on this occasion as the United States champion Bobby Lashley has a date with the Intercontinental champion at Survivor Series. MVP declares that they took care of retribution for WWE and now they want their payment, and they want it in the form of the Raw Tag Team Championships. That's retribution totally buried then. As in, the Hurt Business are just, we've done it, can we have our payment please, and just moving on. They were that fodder, and they're mid-card fodder when we get to it later. But you ask for champions and you summon. It's a new day, yes it is. They run down Bobby's age. Kofi reminds us he's held more titles than the four of them combined. MVP brought up his 8-second loss to Brock Lesnar, and JV's like, well, according to Lana, that's as long as Bobby can last. Oh, don't remind me that Bobby and Lana had that angle. Oh, that was something that came every year. Seems to be something on WWE. I'm like, this is trash, and I come so close to just be like, I'll start watching again once it finishes. But what I actually did was I just skipped it because I think it was WrestleMania season, so I was enjoying the rest of it, or at least getting excited for the rest of it, so I could just skip the Lana Bobby Lashley stuff. Porter did not take his CEO getting done like that lightly. Bigging up Cedric and Shelton ahead of them, challenging Kofi and Xavier to fisticuffs. This was not for the championship, compared to the women's match, which was advertised as not for the women's titles, then on the show was for the women's titles. Again, it's the list of... It's not. I don't know if you definitely count it, but it's the list of when WWE advertised a match for Monday Night Raw, does it actually happen? And in 2019, they went absolutely crazy. I think the record might have been 18, but one of the 2 years, the amount of matches advertised that actually happened, or advertised and then got changed, that number was astronomical. Like it was sky high. Just a stupid amount of announcements for matches that then never happened. Or either be it, they changed their mind and it never actually ended up on the show, or they did a swerve and they also got counted. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't think it's been that bad this year, but that was a mini example. Anyway, we've got New Day versus The Hurt Business of Shelton and Cedric. MVP on commentary saying how Cedric is their young lion, so they've put him with the incredibly experienced Shelton Benjamin to learn all that man has to offer. Cedric and Shelton had their moments in the match, but the New Day had most of the momentum in it. Alexander especially struggling to get his foot in against Kofi. Right words, wrong order. But Woods and Benjamin was a lot more even. Both lads getting their licks in, and that's when momentum really did shift. In the end, Shelton launched Kofi up high, and Woods was unable to fend both men off. The teamwork catching him, and with a neuralizer and pay dirt combo, they scored the win. I mean, it was an exciting match, but it is WWE booking to set up a title match by beating your champions. And yeah, this was that. It was a good version of that, but it's the WWE formula we criticise and we're used to. Yeah, I'm not hugely on board with this style of, especially when I look at the other promotions. Again, this was something we would criticize. That's not a word. It was something we would criticize, but then in the past, AEW didn't exist where we would then see that not happen. If a champion gets beat, it's normally in a title match because you make them feel like a champion. WWE, I don't know, they're more like toys you have possession of, and they pin their champions so often. It's just a little minor thing. I say minor thing, a little, I guess, writing thing. It's how WWE write, which is how we can just constantly take the mick out of them for it. But now we're seeing a different place not do that. And I value their champions so much higher because of it. It's other booking things that can then hinder them. Again, FTR feel like dominant tag champions. Jon Moxley feels like a dominant world champion. Cody as TNT champion feels like a massive deal. The only one that kind of doesn't is Hikaru Shida, but that's because she has been a strong champion, and when she's been on television, it's just that the women's division is not booked consistently at a good level, so she falls down because of that. She feels like a strong champion. It's just that of what division kind of falls onto it just because they're not strongly featured or booked or whatever. But in WWE, when they do have a decent division and there are teams there, they just beat the champions. So it's the champions themselves that don't always feel that strong. Which is partly why Drew as champion felt different, because they did book him strong. Anyway, so yes. Enjoyed the match, just, yeah, WWE booking at the end of it. Nikki Cross was backstage and she found Alexa Bliss, who was facing away from camera as Nikki rattles on. Was I paying attention? No. Ultimately spooked when she demands her friend looks at her, and that's when the Scot gazes upon Lexi's Fiend eyes and runs away. And we didn't see Alexa Bliss at all. Has the Fiend truly taken over? Is Alexa Bliss getting her version of the Fiend? As in, will she wrestle as the Fiend of Alexa Bliss? Do I want to see that? I've suggested it. It's something that's never come across my mind before. But there's Bray Wyatt as the Fiend, but will there be Alexa Bliss as the Fiend? As in, it's like a demon that's possessing them. I don't know if I want to see that or not. I really don't know. Yeah. Hit me up on Twitter at the Demimplicat. Do you think you want to see Alexa Bliss wrestle as the Fiend, or that should just be Bray Wyatt's thing and she does creepy, spooky stuff? And we end this show by talking about Retribution. Thumb up. Ricochet versus Jobber Tucker. It happens that quickly. And, Richard's not done anything since the Guerrero spot the other week, where he outsmarted the Hurt Business, and has he actually done anything since then? Am I just forgetting he has? And no entrance for Tucker either. He was already in the ring looking like a major jobber. But before the match can start, Mustafa Ali comes out walking down the ramp. Ali wandering on down to stand on the announce desk as Ricochet makes quick work of the recently heel-turned big man. The recoil jobbed out Tucky in seconds. After the pin, Ali stepped off the desk as the Retribution graphic theme played. It's like, okay, here comes an attack on Ricochet. Ricochet fought off 3 of them, but was launched out of the ring by T-Bar before they then stomped Tucky down with all of Ricochet. By all of Ricochet? All of Retribution. What is my brain doing today? Poor Richard rolled on back in to be circled by the gang. He launched up at them trying to attack, but the numbers grounded the flippy man fast. Ali looks him in the face and tells him no sin is forgiven until it is punished, leading to him getting slammed down by the group. Retribution go from a major deal to be feared to lower mid-card fodder in record time. The sentences are meant to have weight to it, but my brain's struggling to read tonight. I'm ready for bed. But yeah, Retribution. Again, they were booked to actually win a segment, so that's better, I guess. But they're targeting Ricochet in lower mid-card. This is the break before the main event. That's not a great sign, at all. Should I care about this group? They're 4-0. Sorry, they're 0-4. 4 losses. Are they going to win against Ricochet, or do you establish Ricochet as something to play with where he gets another win first to make them 0-5? Yeah, Mia Yim still has no opponents. She's just there. So what is she doing? She's just about, and she disappears for the matches. So she's literally just like there for the attack segments and random stuff. It's so weird. I gave on my rant last week, so you want to see my rant on Retribution. Like, after the fit that me and Yim had, like, that's like an all-time low for the group after many previous all-time lows. They hit a new one last week. And this week was... like, it's more of a subtle low. That, again, they were in the calm down before the main event. They were mid-card fodder stuff with Ricochet. But I did like how on Raw Talk afterwards... again, if it's not on Raw itself, I don't know how. I don't really take much weight in it. And Mustafa Ali is so good at turning crap into gold. It's just that they don't give him that on the TV. But on Raw Talk, he did say that the reason they attacked Tucker was because of Otis. Because how he turned on Otis, they really didn't like that. And that then fits with Ali and his hacker gimmick, where he's exposing the person doing Otis dirty. and Mandy and the Sonny Deville stuff as well. And so, yeah. It fits that he would also be against Tucker turning on Otis. Because it fits with the hacker character. Again, top-notch stuff from Mustafa Ali. It's just they're constantly giving him crap and he's not got much clay to work with. But Raw overall. I've heard some people say they really enjoyed this show. For me, it was... I didn't get a lot out of it apart from the big lad fight. It's because I'm tired of Drew McIntyre versus Orton and I'm intrigued by the Fiend stuff. I'm enjoying what they're setting up, but I'm done with the McIntyre versus Orton. And short term, that's what they're building to. It's McIntyre versus Orton. Long term, it's the Fiend Randy Orton, and I'll be excited when we move on to it. Does this freshen up Drew McIntyre versus Orton? No. For me, because I'm bored of that. I don't want to see it again. But I am enjoying seeing The Miz and Morrison there. I am enjoying seeing the Fiend there especially. At least feels a bit different because they're wrestling other people before they then do the same kind of interruption spots they've been doing for months. So that I'm done with the main feud. That's the best way to put it. But Raw overall, yeah, I really enjoyed the Big Lad Brawl. I enjoyed the Funhouse. I'm fine with some of the developments in McIntyre Orton. I'm just done with it, so I'm not invested in what's happening, even though I can go, yeah, that was alright. So I guess Raw was fine. It's the best way to put it. My fatigue point was when the Hurt Business came out, scarily enough. I enjoyed their segment, because I really enjoyed the Hurt Business, and the New Day. I've just such a fantastic breath of enjoyment into the show. Just a jolt of fun, which it turns out Raw's really needed. And New Day, they bring a smile to my face every single time. There's a reason I've got their mug. But, yeah, the show overall was fine. I didn't really get a lot from it. Yeah. So, yeah, Raw was fine. But if you like Big Lad Wrestling, watch the Triple Threat. You'll really, really enjoy that. Watch the Funhouse if you enjoy the Bray stuff. New Day versus the Hurt Business was a really enjoyable tag. But yeah, Raw overall was fine for me, which is an improvement. So, in terms of like rating it on their scale, I thought Raw last week was like particularly bad. We've had a solid month of, I would say, bad Raws, but this was fine. So that is an improvement. As in, there wasn't anything on the show that actively destroyed things, that took away momentum with such a yank of the rug. But yeah, nothing inoffensive, nothing broken, but it was just fine for me. But again, watch the Big Lad match. I'm enjoying the dynamic of the Team Raw. It feels more than just you've lumped people together. It's the AJ team captain, and you're building how volatile this group is, but that can reap benefits come the night. But anyway, do you feel like Survivor Series is getting in the way? Are you bored of Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton like I am? Or is The Fiend and The Miz and Morrison kind of mixing it up enough? Do you like I did like the idea of turning the Predator on its head, where what happens when the Predator becomes the prey. I like that idea. It's just, I don't know. I find it difficult to get super invested because I enjoy the Survivor Series pay-per-views. But as I said on the NXT review with James Boyd last Thursday, they are a show which is probably enjoyed better if you don't watch the weekly television and you just tune in for the pay-per-view. Because the pay-per-views are normally solid. It's just the storylines have to get really stretched out or just stop short term to kind of build to it. So yeah. Anyway, I'll be back on Tuesday for the NXT review. Thank you for listening to the Raw review. Once again, bashing out this stuff. If Again, that's if anybody's listened to this nonsense, especially as it's US election night. Good luck to my American friends. And again, yeah, the best thing for democracy is to vote. I guess. As long as your voice is heard. Again, I'm the guy who takes the piss out of all the politicians and then suddenly realises I've got to vote for one of them. I've voted for 4 different parties in 4 different elections. I have no kind of allegiance to anybody. Would say I'm left of centre. But I'm not like left because... yeah. I'll get into it. If anybody does want to speak to politics, you can hit me up on Twitter at the Damn Implicat. If you want to get stuff off your chest, hit me up at the Damn Implicat. You might need a void to shout into. Hit me up. I'll be happy to be your anger void or whatever you need in these coming weeks. Anyway, I have been the imp. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I knew I was stalling for a reason. I will be live on Twitch on Friday with a multiplayer stream and whatnot. I'll be streaming on Twitch to get that kind of started as well. Ash from Wrestling Shorts has pushed me into it. So yeah, he'll be live tomorrow if you want to check him out as well at Wrestling Shorts. I am the Implications. That's the Implications with a second S on Twitch. If you want to go check me out, I'm Ratchet and Clank currently on a Mondays. I've got 1 trophy left to make every enemy dance. It's not popping. And on Fridays, like multiplayer games with friends and family, bring them on as well. So anyway, thank you for listening to this. What did you make of Monday Night Raw? Did you? The other reason when I said it was fine. Were you thinking similar maybe because there's so much going on in the world? Were you even able to care? Which is what I'm expecting for this show. Like I've gone into this with like zero expectancy of it. Take some pressure off of it. Would have been nice if my mouth would have worked good, but nope, turns out I'm knackered. Didn't know that before I started the show. But yeah, were you even able to really pay attention and get into it? Anyway, let me know all that stuff. I'll be back on Thursday for the NXT review. And with that, I say thank you for watching, and I bid you adieu. Crap rhyme. Adios.